Welcome back to the channel, and we're already in September, end of September, for week 5 of our season preview, and we find ourselves going down to Miami Gardens for Friday. Virginia Tech at Miami. Miami is a 7.5 point favorite at home. Assuming this line is going to move based on week 1 if they beat or lose to Florida. And this is their, I believe, no, they're probably their second conference game, right? Surely. But it'll be one of their biggest games. Virginia Tech's one of the dark horse teams. They've got a lot of guys in there that are coming back. I know they have a lot of returning production. People say why they're very high on them. They're talking about how they could potentially be a dark horse. Yeah, no, this is the first conference game for them. So to open up the ACC season at home, this would be a big win. It's a standalone game Friday night. The world, not the world, but the college football world will likely be watching this game, whether intently or at a bar socially having a great time. So this would be a good chance to put some potential eyes on the playoff committee will potentially be on this game. So a good statement at home. If you pair this up with a win against Florida, you're 5-0 when you got, pretty much the whole schedule in front of you. I mean, you're looking at the schedule here real quick. I just closed it as I opened it. For Tech, obviously be a big game on the road, beating one of the top teams in the conference, and you'd find yourself potentially sneaking into the upper tier of the ACC, kind of building out there. But yeah, then they have at Cal the week after for the Hurricanes, and they really, the next game after that, they have a bye week and then at Louisville. So you can really get bowl eligible. You can be 6-0 heading into potentially the bye week. That'd be crazy. So, this is your toughest game in the first half of the season in a very backloaded schedule. I'd probably say Florida's the toughest game, but after Florida, it's your toughest conference game. Obviously, only one of two, but it's a very big game for Miami. And again, going 6-0 with you check a bowl game off the list, and you've already probably an improvement on last season. So good for Miami there if they get the win for sure. And then we move into Saturday. We will start with Ole Miss hosting Kentucky. This is Ole Miss's first game really of the season, like big time. They have Furman at home, Middle Tennessee State at home, at Wake Forest, home against Georgia Southern, and then home against Kentucky. I know I mentioned this the other day in the Dark Horses video. Go check it out, please. And I talked about how, it's where we're going to see what Ole Miss actually is. There's obviously another bigger game in the conference that we'll talk about last, but if they want to contend in this conference, and they, by all intents and purposes, should, probably make it the playoffs. You don't make this year. If you don't make the playoffs this year, it's wraps probably for Lane Kiffin long term. But you never know with Lane where he's going to go, so you want to maximize him and Jackson Dart while you got him. So if they have a really good season or a really good game here against Kentucky, Stoops is a good coach. He's got a good thing going. Brought in Vandegrift, Chip Trainum, a bunch of other transfers, some Michigan. They're building a good thing up there in Kentucky. Can you beat, bring Kentucky in at home? You have a good way to start the conference, slow at home. Not slow, but, a bigger team, and you go on the road the week after to South Carolina. It's an easier game after that. So if you can get Kentucky, it's just like we talked about with Miami. You're looking at 6-0. This will be a 5-0 if you win this one, going into at LSU. And then if you win that game, hey, we can get the ball rolling. We can find ourselves 8-0, 9-0, heading into Georgia at home. In Oklahoma at home. So there's a few big games. You have most of them at home. So this is your first of the big home games at home, or big games at home. So if you can take care of business, this is the real big spot where Ole Miss can get going. As for Kentucky, again, they have a lot of transfer portal classes. They kind of are slowly ascending. They didn't know if Stoops was going to stay or not, if he was going to leave. At this point, you're likely going to be 4-1. You have Southern Miss, South Carolina, Georgia, and Ohio at home. Weird schedule. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. They have Louisville within the year. I always forget that. It's not a conference game. My apologies. I was like, why do they have week 2 and 3 are conference games? So that's their other game at the end. So a tougher game without a conference there. So, you're probably going to lose to Georgia at home. You'll get up for that for sure. But you got to beat, if you beat Ole Miss on the road, that's a statement win. And that's the wait, where are we? Are we going to find ourselves 9-3, edge of the playoff type thing? You never know. There's always a team that jumps out of nowhere from the SEC, especially. So, Kentucky's got a lot of transfers. They're building on good year last year. I know they got some probation and some nonsense. They had to vacate wins after the no-show jobs, but you can kind of get that attention out of there by beating a big team. It's like, hey, look, we're doing it legit. We're doing our thing, and we're making it out, because the rest of the season you have at Texas is probably the only game you are going to be probably lost, right? You've got Georgia, Ole Miss, and at Texas. So if you can win one of those three, maybe 10-2, maybe 9-3, and then that's potentially playoff, depending on how everything shakes out. Obviously, with it being an expanded one. So up next, we've got a very fun Big Ten game. The Badgers come over to Ole Miss. I know both of them are to USC, excuse me, in the Coliseum. I know both teams I've talked about before, but again, two of the upper, like the top four teams, you would say, at least, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State and Michigan, you would think are the top four teams. This is like the top of the next tier, right? Contending for playoff. Wisconsin, USC, and Iowa probably in there. Maybe Nebraska sneaks in. Maybe Washington goes nuts. But it's probably those three, you would think: USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. So obviously these two playing each other is a big deal. USC is a 5.5 point favorite at home. It's kind of the air raid versus the wannabe air raid. So if Lincoln Riley can show that he's got a good defense, this game could get good for USC. And again, it'd be a good win against Wisconsin. If you come into the conference and it's like, hey, look, we can hang with the Wisconsins, we can hang with the other teams. If you, God forbid, in my opinion, for me, beat Michigan, it's like, whoa, you're really contending, you're really ahead of schedule. But if you lose a game against Wisconsin, it's like, was everything they said about the Pac-12 teams coming in outside of Oregon true? It's like they can't hang with the physicality and the defense of these Big Ten teams. It's a statement game. With an earlier game on Friday will be Rutgers and Washington. Kind of the same thing there, right? So, the West Coast teams, their little styles, not as defensive and trenches oriented as the Big Ten traditionally is. So, it's a clash of styles where you can see upsets. So, potentially Wisco could get a big one on the road here. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not, but that Alabama game tells us a lot. If they beat Alabama, it's like, whoa, here we go. So, and same thing with USC. If they beat Michigan, it's like, whoa, here we go. So if you feel strongly on either one of those games, maybe the 5.5 point look ahead spread either way is good for you. So up next, we have our first Group of 5 game. This is a huge game. Liberty against App State. App State is the favorite to win the Sun Belt at plus 270. And for Conference USA, Liberty is a minus 200 favorite. So they're both going their conferences. So I believe that make them eligible to be the Group of 5 representative for the expanded playoff. So the winner of this game is going to probably be in a very good position to be the this is basically the top game on your resume, probably, for these two teams when it comes to making the playoff. I know it doesn't matter, but if it comes down to the last two teams, it's like, hey, the Sun Belt's a tough conference, but they unfortunately lost to undefeated Liberty, right? That'd be tough. You can't really jump over a head-to-head win unless you're Alabama and Texas, but that's a whole different thing. But I guess they didn't jump them, but they snuck them both in, depending on if you're a Florida State fan or not. But Liberty, obviously, Caden Salter coming back, had an unbelievable season last year. You guys know, if you follow the channel long term, I love this guy. Talked about how good he was. I wanted Michigan so bad. If he could somehow transfer portal over here, it would have been great. And App State, I don't know if they have that Chase kid from Clemson, but they've always had a pretty good program. Don't have to tell a Michigan fan that. Been doing really good D1 since they've moved up. Beat obviously Texas A&M, I think last year or 2 years ago. I don't know. Time kind of combines together. They're that crazy college game day, insane Hail Mary, like cooking ladder walk off against, I think it was Troy on game day. So they've had some big wins the last few years. In at home against Liberty, it's a big win. And if Liberty wins on the road against App State, it's like, whoa, we're for real here. So this is going to be one of those really good games. I really wish it was like a Friday night, so it's like a standalone kind of thing. But nonetheless, it'll be a good game for the Money in the Crumbs folks out there to see some good G5 teams go at it. And then the opposite end of the spectrum is our final game, Georgia at Bama. They finally face off. Everyone always jokes how these teams don't face off outside of bowl games. So they've played in the regular season like twice in the last 10 years. Obviously with COVID moving up a little bit. I think they played during COVID, 2021. That being said, it is in Bryant-Denny in Tuscaloosa. They're a 4.5 point favorite. Georgia on the road in the house that Saban helped build. It'll be crazy to see this team here. Obviously, Alabama at this point will kind of know who they are. We'll kind of know who Georgia is. battle of the Titans. So, again, I say with all these games, the later on we get, the more the spread's going to move. If Georgia somehow loses to Kentucky or Clemson, this spread's going to fly the other way. If Alabama loses to Wisconsin, God forbid, same thing with that, right? So if you feel any strong opinions on the big games before it, you can definitely take a look here. But we've talked about Alabama, in other videos, but I think that Milrose could be a great success or great help, take an upgrade, with DeBoer over there. But he'll have a big road test in him. We'll kind of know what we've starting to see from Bama. I think they're going to grow a lot throughout the year as Milroe learns and develops still more. He's still kind of young. He's not had a ton of starters under his belt, but Carson Beck, his only loss, I think, as a starter was to Alabama in the conference championship game. So maybe there's still some demons there. I know Kirby will be thrilled he's not going against Saban, and instead he's going against a soft West Coast coach, which isn't necessarily true. But it's going to be the game of the week. I had 5 games down and was like, oh, I don't want to put this game down, or I don't have any other games. And then right at the bottom from third on, there's 3 things below because a lot of the TBDs aren't in there. So all the games with times, this one's a 7:30 night game, are at the bottom. And I was like, oh gosh, I've forgotten this one. So obviously game of the week there. We'll see what happens. Game day will be there for sure. ABC, $290, probably like $310 with fees, something like that. So hopefully you can get there if you're a fan of college football or a fan of either team. But we'll see for sure if Alabama's back or not. This will be a good note for them there. I know Alabama's got 3 or 4 pretty tough games, this being the first of them. But you beat Georgia, the presumed title favorite in Vegas. It'll be a very good start to the season. So that's all I got for now. We'll probably continue doing these more. I might spread them out, and I did a bunch in a row. But just trying to get some videos up before I go to town. So thank you all for watching. Hope you had a great week, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.